There can be some unexpected records in the online catalog. We're going to put in Desert Trail, a 1935 John Wayne Western. Now, a 1935 work should have been renewed 1962 to 1963. That's the renewal window. However, we notice with this title that there are quite a number of video versions that have been registered for copyright. One of these is for a Young Duke series. Duke is a name for John Wayne, but we notice that entries 33 and 34 are for a Paul Malvern production directed by Colin Lewis. That's correct, so we'll click on them and see what gives. This 1985 registration was taken out by Sony. Yes, Sony. They didn't make the movie initially. They weren't making movies in 1935, but it acknowledges here photoplay originally published in 1935, but basis of claim, new matter, editing, and music. So they're not claiming copyright on the whole movie. The same too of this 1990 registration. It's just for new matter, which in this case is colorization of a previously existing motion picture, as well as new sound effects and new music. The copyright registration is limited to that. We're going to do a search on Cosmopolitan Magazine to find out what was renewed for their April 1963 issue. We'll start by clicking Begin Search. We find that there are over 1,000 entries from a whole bunch of years, so we'll click Set Search Limits. We're only interested in 1963, so we'll find out what was renewed from 1963. Set Search Limits. We're down to 26 entries, and we notice that number 3 on the list is the April 1963 issue. Now, this is the renewal number. It was renewed in 1991, 28 years after the original registration. We'll notice also that number 14 on this list is an article in that same issue. So we notice a separate renewal by the estate of Ayn Rand for the contribution of that author to that particular issue. We're going to put in that renewal registration number, and we'll search by registration number, and we see that there were 5 renewals for that particular issue. 4 of them are for particular contributors. Ayn Rand was one of them. Winifred Woolf was another. We're going to do a whole new search now. Cosmopolitan Magazine is put in once again. Now remember that the year that the renewal had to take place was 1991. So let's search this time for the year that the renewal took place, 1991. We put in 1991. We click Set Search Limits. And we see that number 6 on this list is Bob Hope. Now, he was not on the list of those 5, yet you can see that he had a contribution to the April 1963 issue. So that came up in 1991, but not in 1963. Winifred Woolf's name appeared both times. You do have to be careful. Here's an example. We're going to put in Abbott and Costello using the ampersand between Abbott and Costello. We also are going to try with the word "and" spelled out. This is going to give different results. So we suggest you could do a separate search on just Abbott or just Costello, with the idea being that regardless of whether the ampersand is in the title or the word "and" is spelled out, it's going to come up. Notice that there are other ways of searching besides year. You can do it by mask work, motion pictures, computer files, maps, text, music, visual art, pre-registration, cancel registration. Here you can see that the Copyright Office actually gives you some advice on how to search. Notice under Online Records it says search the catalog, but under Other services, that's where it says find records prior to January 1st, 1978. That is because records that were registered prior to that date are not in the online catalog. This means all renewals for works prior to 1950. Keep in mind that if a work has a start date in 1950, could have been renewed in 1977 or 1978. If it was renewed in 1977, it will not be in the online records. It's in Washington, D.C., just steps from the Capitol Dome, that there is the home of the Copyright Office. It's inside the Madison Building of the Library of Congress. It is here that there is the complete collection of all copyright registration and renewal records. This includes those for works from 1949 and earlier, as well as for works up to the present date. We're going to take a look at some of their unique paperwork. This is the registration certificate for a 1943 issue of a periodical. We're going to be looking at the top right corner of several of these. In the top right corner, you'll notice that there is the registration number, but nothing written by hand. On that particular one, there is something written in by hand. That's the renewal number. This is where the Copyright Office keeps track of the registrations that were renewed and those that weren't, such as the last two we've looked at, and now this third one.
It looks like quite a number of registrations weren't renewed.
The Copyright Office made up this ledger of 1931 movie registrations. This page has such titles as Charlie Chan Carries On, City Lights with Charlie Chaplin, Lonely Wives with Edward Everett Horton. Those are listed on the left-hand side of the ledger. When we move to the right-hand side of the ledger, in the rightmost column, you can see where years later, in blue ink, they wrote in the renewal number. Where there is nothing in that column, no renewal registration was recorded.